I never thought I'd start my wedding day getting rejected through a text message. 5 minutes before walking down the aisle, standing there in my tux, hands shaking and heart pounding, my phone buzzed. I smiled automatically, thought maybe Amber was sending me a sweet, see you soon, love kind of message, something to calm the nerves. But when I opened it, my entire world split in half in 2 sentences. Vincent, I'm so sorry. I can't do this. I reject you. That was it. No explanation. No call. Just that. Cold. Final. Like a dagger wrapped in politeness. I reject you. Who even says that? It sounded like something from a medieval breakup scene. For a few seconds, my brain refused to process it. I actually laughed quietly, thinking she was joking. But as I read it again, my throat tightened. My stomach twisted. The blood drained from my face. All the planning, the years of dating, the stupid Pinterest board she obsessed over, it all vanished with those 3 words. Brian, my best man, noticed I'd gone pale. Hey man, you good? They're ready for you. His grin faded when he saw my face. Vincent? What's wrong? I turned the phone toward him. His eyes went wide. No way. Are you serious? I nodded, jaw clenched. My voice wouldn't work. My hand shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone. I felt something inside me snap, not in anger, but in clarity, like my body decided to protect me before my mind could break. I'm fine, I said, though it sounded robotic. Let's not waste this. He frowned. Not waste what? Bro. But I was already walking. Through the hallway. Past the coordinator, who looked like she was about to tell me it was time. I didn't stop. I didn't think. I found the officiant, an older man with kind eyes. Mr. Carver, everything all right? He asked. Slight change of plans. I said evenly. My voice didn't sound like mine. Too calm. You'll see in a minute. Then I walked through the main doors into the venue. The music was playing softly, the guests chatting and laughing. Rows of faces turned toward me. My mom's face lit up when she saw me, then froze when she realized I was alone. The murmur started immediately. I stood at the altar where Amber and I were supposed to start our forever, feeling the weight of every stare in the room. I took a deep breath, picked up the mic, and said the words that would turn one of the worst moments of my life into something unforgettable. Good evening, everyone. I began. My voice was calm, but cold. Thank you for being here. There's been a development. The room fell silent. About 5 minutes ago, I continued. I received a message from Amber. I paused, looked around. My dad frowned. My mom covered her mouth. It said, and I quote, Vincent, I'm so sorry. I can't do this. I reject you. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone on her side cried out her name. Whispers erupted. My chest ached, but I didn't flinch. So, it appears there will be no wedding today. I said, steady as stone. Amber has made her choice. Another pause. Then louder. However, everything's been paid for. The food, the bar, the band. So tonight, instead of a wedding reception, this will be a celebration. A celebration of honesty, even when it's brutal. A celebration of dodging a bullet. For 5 seconds, the silence was deafening. Then Brian started clapping. Slow, deliberate. My dad joined in and a few others. It grew, hesitant but real. Amber's parents stormed out. Her sister Danielle looked ready to explode. But I stayed standing, holding the mic like it was the only thing keeping me upright. So I finished, raising my glass of water. Eat, drink, dance if you want. Let's turn this disaster into something worth remembering, to dodging bullets. The applause that followed was shaky, awkward, but it happened. The band, bless them, caught on and started playing something upbeat. Guests began to move, to talk, to pour drinks. The night transformed into something surreal, a mix of celebration and chaos. Hours later, I sat alone upstairs, still in my tux, listening to the muffled laughter below. It didn't feel like a wedding anymore. It felt like a funeral for a future that just got buried alive. I stared at the text again. I reject you. It was almost poetic in how cruel it sounded. I tried to imagine what Amber was doing at that moment. Was she crying somewhere? Laughing? Already gone? I didn't know, and I didn't care. The numbness was the only thing keeping me functional. Downstairs, Brian eventually came up. "You good, man?" he asked softly. "No," I said honestly. "But I will be." He nodded. "You handled that like a king. Most guys would have lost it." "Didn't feel like a king," I muttered. "Felt like roadkill." We both laughed quietly. The kind of laugh that hurts because it's the only way to keep from crying. The rest of the night blurred together. Guests offered sympathy. My parents hovered. Vendors looked confused. Every few minutes someone would come up and ask, "Are you okay?" And I just gnawed, because what else could I say? By 2 a.m., the crowd thinned out. About a third of the guests had left after the announcement. But the ones who stayed were the real ones. My friends, my family. People who didn't flinch when things got ugly. When the lights finally went down and I was alone again, I sat on a hotel bed, surrounded by leftover decorations and flowers. The silence was deafening. That's when it hit me fully. She was gone. She really chose to destroy it all minutes before the ceremony. I didn't sleep that night. I just stared at the ceiling, replaying everything. Our first date, the proposal, the arguments that now seemed like warning signs I'd ignored. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her walking away. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. My phone was flooded with messages from family, friends, even vendors. But from Amber? Nothing. Not a single word. No call, no text, no explanation. Over the next couple of days, it stayed silent. I tried to distract myself, but the quiet felt heavier than any noise. My mom visited with coffee and hugs. "Sweetheart, she doesn't deserve you," she kept saying. "Anyone who can do that isn't capable of real love." I know. I told her, though my heart didn't believe it yet. I kept checking my phone, hoping for something, closure, an explanation, anything. 72 hours later, my phone finally buzzed with her name. I froze. Against my better judgment, I opened it. "Vincent, I made a mistake. Please, we need to talk." Then another message. It wasn't what it looked like. "Please, just call me. I love you." My heart sank. Anger, heartbreak, disbelief, all collided at once. 3 days. It took her 3 days to realize what she'd thrown away. I didn't reply. Not right away. Instead, I called Brian. He answered with a sigh that told me he already knew something. "Bro," he said, "you sitting down? Because this is going to hurt." Turns out, Amber didn't just get cold feet. She had someone waiting. A guy named Jordan. Older, rich-looking, smooth talker. Flashy car, big promises. According to one of her friends, Amber planned to ditch the wedding and run off with him. Apparently, he told her he had this new life ready for them, that she didn't have to marry me because he'd take care of her. I felt sick. Everything started making sense. The weird behavior, the sudden secrecy, the late-night work calls. Her phone always face down. I had brushed it off as pre-wedding stress. God, I was blind. But the best part? Jordan's grand escape plan fell apart within 48 hours. He ditched her at a gas station somewhere 3 states away when he realized she didn't have the money she'd promised him. The fairy tale life she imagined evaporated before it even began. By the time I read that part of the story, I wasn't even angry anymore, just stunned. Amber had burned her entire life to chase a fantasy built on lies. And now she wanted to crawl back. I went downstairs, poured myself a drink, and stared at my reflection in the dark window. The groom who got rejected by text. The man she thought she could walk all over. Not anymore. I texted her back one sentence. "Sure, we can talk tomorrow." I didn't sleep that night. Not because I missed her, but because I was planning what I'd say when she finally heard the version of Vincent who didn't beg. The next morning, my phone buzzed again before I was even out of bed. "Amber, please, Vincent, just meet me once. I owe you an explanation." I stared at her message for a long time. A week ago, I'd have dropped everything just to hear her voice. Now, all I could think about was how easily she destroyed me. But I agreed anyway. Not because I wanted her back, because I needed to look her in the eye and see if she'd actually own what she did. We met at a small cafe near downtown. It used to be our place. The same corner table, the same smell of coffee and rain. She was already there when I arrived, dressed like she hadn't slept in days. Her makeup was smudged, her eyes red. When she saw me, she stood up too fast, knocking over a cup a little. "Vincent," she whispered. "You came." I didn't sit. I just looked at her. "Why?" I asked, "Why did you do it?" Tears filled her eyes instantly. "I panicked," she said. I don't know. I thought I was making the right choice. Jordan made me think." "Jordan?" I cut in. "Yeah, I heard about him. The guy you ran off with instead of getting married." Her lips trembled. "It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that." I snapped. "You humiliated me in front of hundreds of people. You could have called. You could have told me. But you waited until I was standing there, ready to say, 'I do,' and you texted me that you rejected me, like a job applicant." She covered her face with her hands, sobbing quietly. The sight didn't even hurt anymore. It just looked pathetic. "I'm so sorry," she said. "He told me he'd take care of me. He said you didn't really love me, that you just wanted control. I was stupid. I believed him. And then he left me. He left me in the middle of nowhere. I had to call Danielle to come get me." "Good," I said flatly. "You deserve that." She looked up, shocked. "Vincent, please. I love you. I made a mistake. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But can't we just try again? Try again." I repeated, laughing bitterly. "You left me minutes before our wedding. There's no try again after that." Her face crumbled. "I'll do anything. Please, I'll prove to you I've changed." "Changed?" I leaned forward. "It's been a week, Amber. The only thing that's changed is that he dumped you and you realize what you lost." The waitress brought my coffee and set it down awkwardly, sensing the tension. I waited until she walked away before standing up. "Enjoy your coffee," I said. "And do me a favor, don't contact me again." She grabbed my hand as I turned. "Please, Vincent, don't do this. I know you still love me." I looked at her hand, then at her face. "You're right," I said quietly. "I did love you, but you made sure that version of me died at the altar." I pulled my hand free and walked out. That night, she texted again. And again. Dozens of messages, apologies, declarations, promises. I didn't reply. I just archived the chat and left it there. But Amber wasn't the kind of person who gave up easily. A few days later, she started showing up at my office, outside my apartment, even messaging my friends. She played the victim, telling everyone how she made a mistake, and I was being cruel. That's when I realized something important. She wasn't sorry because she regretted hurting me. She was sorry because she lost control. That was the day I decided to get my control back. I didn't want to humiliate her publicly the way she did me. Not yet. I wanted her to want me again, to believe she had a chance, to let her rebuild the illusion and then take it all away. It started small. I texted her one night. "Hope you're doing better." She replied instantly. "You have no idea how much that means to me. Can we talk?" We started talking again, just casual stuff at first. Work, family, music. I made sure to sound warm but distant, like I was considering forgiving her. Every message was calculated. Within a week, she was calling me baby, again like nothing had happened. She invited me over to talk properly. I said maybe. I wanted her to stew in that uncertainty. Meanwhile, everyone around us could see it. My friends were cautious, Brian especially. "You sure this is a good idea?" he asked one night. "She burned you once. You really want to light that match again?" "I'm not lighting it," I told him. "I'm watching her hold it while I stand back." He gave me a knowing look, but didn't argue. Amber's parents reached out too. Her mother sent me a long message apologizing on her behalf, saying Amber was deeply remorseful. I didn't reply, but I saved it. Every apology was a little piece of power. Then came the big opportunity. Her birthday. She invited me to her family dinner. Please come, she begged. It would mean everything to me. Everyone will be there. I almost said no, but then I realized this was a perfect stage. When I showed up, everyone looked shocked. Amber ran up to hug me, and I let her, just enough to make her think I'd softened. Her father smiled, her sister scowled. Dinner was awkward but calm. I stayed polite, charming even. Halfway through, Amber stood up and made a toast. I just want to say, she began, her voice trembling, I'm so grateful Vincent is here tonight. I hurt him more than anyone should ever be hurt, and he still has the heart to forgive me. Everyone clapped. I smiled. On the outside, I looked calm. Inside, I was ice. Later that night, when we were alone, she tried to kiss me. I let her, just enough to make her believe everything was healing. Then I pulled back. Not yet, I said softly. I need to be sure you're really different. She nodded, almost tearful. Anything. I'll wait. Good, I thought. Wait. Over the next month, I played the long game. I let her think I was slowly warming up. I let her rebuild the idea that I might take her back. We went out a few times, nothing serious. I never stayed over. I never said, I love you. She clung to every breadcrumb I dropped. All the while, I was collecting things, screenshots of her messages, her apologies, even her own confession about Jordan. I didn't know exactly what I'd do with it yet, but I knew the moment would come, and it did. Amber worked at a marketing firm, the same one that handled several big local clients. Her boss, a woman named Kelly, was strict about reputation, and Amber, in her desperation to prove she was good again, had started bragging around the office that she and I were back together, that our love story had conquered everything. I found out through a mutual friend. That was my spark. One evening, after another one of our fake dinners, I told Amber I wanted to share something online. A story, I said, about everything that happened. The wedding, the aftermath, but anonymous. She hesitated. People will know it's me. Not if I change the names, I said. Besides, it could help others, people who've been betrayed. She smiled weakly. If it helps you heal, do it. So I did. I posted it on Reddit. Every ugly detail. The text, the affair, the failed runaway plan, everything. I changed the names, but anyone who knew us could connect the dots. The post blew up overnight. Thousands of comments. People calling her heartless, shallow, cruel. The story hit other platforms. Memes. TikToks. And then someone at her office recognized it. 2 days later, I got a message from her. Vincent, what did you do? My boss knows. They're threatening to fire me. I typed slowly. You told me to share it. Said it might help me heal. She called, sobbing. Please, I'll lose everything. I didn't answer. An hour later, she texted again. You win. I give up. I stared at that message for a while. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like justice finally catching up. A week later, she packed up and left town. No more calls, no more messages. Just silence. But the silence this time felt peaceful. Brian came over a few days after. So that's it, he asked. That's it, I said. She started with a text. I ended with a post. He laughed. Poetic. I smiled. No. Fair. That night, for the first time in months, I slept like a man who didn't have ghosts whispering in his head anymore. Because the thing about revenge isn't that it fixes you. It just reminds you that you were never as weak as they made you feel. Months passed after Amber left town. Life felt oddly quiet, but not empty. For the first time in years, I was living without walking on emotional glass. I went to work, hit the gym, started eating better, and actually enjoyed silence again. The post about my story had gone viral beyond anything I expected. It was on TikTok compilations, YouTube narrations, even podcasts. People messaged me saying my story helped them walk away from toxic relationships. It was surreal watching strangers analyze the worst day of my life. But in a weird way, it helped. Every comment that said, "You dodged a bullet," felt like a tiny piece of my self-worth coming back. Then one morning, about 2 months later, Brian walked into my apartment holding his phone. "Dude," he said, grinning, You're not going to believe this. What now? I asked, sipping my coffee. He handed me the phone. It was a Reddit thread, a new one. The title read, I was a fiancé who left my husband-to-be minutes before our wedding. I regret it every day. I froze. I scrolled, and there it was, Amber's writing. I could tell instantly. Her phrasing, her tone, it was her. She was trying to explain her side of the story to the internet. She started with excuses. How she was manipulated by someone older, how she panicked, how she didn't mean to hurt him. But the comments? Brutal. People recognized her instantly. They tore her apart. She's a girl from a viral post. One comment said. Another. Imagine being so self-centered you ruin someone's life and then expect sympathy. By the time I reached the end, I actually felt something close to pity. Almost. But the story didn't stop there. Apparently, after she lost her job, she'd been bouncing between small towns, doing odd gigs, trying to rebuild her life. Her family had cut her off for embarrassing them publicly. Her sister refused to speak to her, and she'd burned through her savings fast. She mentioned struggling to find work because every potential employer who Googled her name found the post. Her own choices had turned into her shadow. That should have been enough. But then something unexpected happened. About 3 weeks later, I got an email from someone named Lauren Carter. The name didn't ring a bell. Hi, Vincent. I'm reaching out because I read your story on Reddit. I'm a producer for a podcast called Behind the Story, where we talk about real viral experiences and how people rebuild afterward. Your post inspired a lot of people. I'd love to feature you in an episode, if you're comfortable. At first, I wasn't sure. I didn't really want to relive it all again, but something inside me said yes. Maybe it was closure, maybe curiosity. Either way, I agreed. We recorded remotely a few days later. Lauren had this calm, empathetic voice that made it easy to talk about everything. The wedding, the text, the revenge post. She didn't judge, didn't dramatize. Just listened. When the episode aired, it blew up. People shared clips everywhere. My inbox flooded again. Except this time, it wasn't pity, it was respect. Job offers, collaboration requests, even random strangers thanking me for being honest. Life started moving forward fast. A local PR agency reached out to hire me as a communications consultant after hearing the episode. They said they wanted someone who understands emotional storytelling. I laughed at how ironic that was. But I took the job. Within months, I'd gone from heartbroken ex-groom to someone actually thriving. Then one evening after work, I got another email from Amber. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Vincent, I know I have no right to contact you, but I listened to the podcast. You sound happy. You sound like you've moved on. I'm glad. I just want to tell you I'm sorry, not for what happened to me, but for what I did to you. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand what I destroyed. For a second, I almost believed her sincerity. But then I noticed her email signature, her new job title. She'd started working for a small marketing startup in another state, a company that, coincidentally, was one of our agency's clients. And just like that, the calm turned to ice again. I knew exactly what to do. I didn't respond to her. Instead, I called my manager the next morning. Hey, I said casually, you know that new client, Strive Media? You might want to double-check their staffing before the campaign launch. Why? She asked. Let's just say there's someone there with a complicated reputation online. Could be bad optics. By the end of that week, Strive Media quietly replaced their new hire. Amber's name vanished from their team page. Brian found out later through someone mutual. You really did it, he said, shaking his head. I didn't do anything. I replied, I just let the truth be seen. He smirked. You're dangerous when you're calm, man. I smiled. I learned from the best, her. Months passed again. The more I moved forward, the less Amber existed in my mind. She became just another lesson. Proof that love without loyalty is just performance. Then one night, I got another message from Lauren, the podcast host. Hey, just a heads up, we got an anonymous submission asking to tell her side of your story. I won't run it without your consent, but thought you should know. I stared at the message. My first instinct was anger. Then, I just laughed. Run it, I replied. People can hear both sides. I'm not afraid of the truth anymore. A week later, her episode dropped. It was Amber. She sounded broken, tired, but honest. She admitted everything. How she cheated. How greed and fear drove her. How she lost everything because she couldn't face the mirror. The comments weren't cruel this time. They were quiet, reflective. People could hear her pain. I didn't comment, didn't share. I just listened once, then closed the app. That night, I slept without dreams for the first time in years. Because real revenge isn't just making them suffer. It's being so far beyond their reach that their apology doesn't even echo anymore. And I thought that was the end of it. Until 2 months later, when karma came back for one last encore. A friend from my old city sent me a photo one afternoon. It was Amber, working as a barista at a small cafe. The caption said, "Guess who I ran into?" She looked peaceful, not broken, just ordinary. I stared at the picture for a while, then smiled faintly. For the first time, I didn't feel anger or satisfaction, just finality. Because when you truly move on, revenge becomes irrelevant. But that wasn't the end of my story. Not yet, because life had one last twist waiting for me. Something that would make me question whether revenge really ended where I thought it did. 3 weeks after I saw that picture of Amber working at the cafe, I drove through that same city for a business conference. It wasn't planned, just coincidence, or maybe life's way of closing the loop for me. The morning was calm, sky painted soft gray, rain threatening. I stopped at a red light, half awake, coffee in hand. That's when I saw her, Amber, standing behind the cafe counter, hair tied back, no makeup, wearing that same tired apron. She was handing a drink to a customer, smiling faintly, but the light in her eyes was gone. She looked normal, ordinary, not the center of attention, not the girl who once made every room tilt toward her, just another person trying to get by. For a second, I wondered if I should go in, just to see what would happen, maybe to test if I still felt anything. But then the light turned green and I drove on. That moment, me leaving her behind, literally and figuratively, was the real closure I never knew I needed. I didn't need an apology. I didn't need her to see me happy. I just needed to not stop. That night, the conference held a networking mixer at the hotel bar. I was chatting with a few people when someone new joined our table. She was laughing, confident, the kind of presence that didn't demand attention, but earned it quietly. Her name was Lily. She worked in PR too, but in another state. We started talking about work, then life, then somehow ended up swapping stories about the worst dates we'd ever had. I told her about the almost wedding in a short, funny way. She laughed, not out of pity, but because she got it. You know, she said, sometimes losing what you thought you wanted is just clearing space for what you actually need. That line stuck with me. We kept in touch after that night. Texts turned into calls. Calls turned into trips. She wasn't dramatic or manipulative or trying to fix me. She was just real. The kind of calm you don't notice until you survive chaos. A few months later, we visited the Maldives together. Same resort, same bungalow Amber had picked. I hesitated booking at first, but Lily just smiled and said, "Then let's rewrite the memory." Standing there, watching the ocean glow under moonlight, I realized something. Revenge had already served its purpose long ago. What came next was revenge. It was rebirth. I didn't need Amber to suffer anymore. She was already living the consequences of her choices. And I was living proof that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means growing beyond the wound. A few days after we came back, I got one last email. No name, no subject line. Just one sentence. "I saw your photo. I'm glad you're happy." I didn't reply. Didn't need to, because that was the moment the story truly ended. Amber had taken something from me once. Time, trust, innocence. But I'd taken it all back, piece by piece. My peace, my pride, my joy. And now, every time I look back on that day, The text, the chaos, the awkward non-wedding turn celebration, I smile. Because it wasn't the day I was rejected. It was the day I was set free. The day I dodged a bullet so precisely. It ricocheted into a better life. And that, right there, is the real revenge. And with that, our story comes to an end. But the real story begins with your thoughts. What would you do if you were in this situation? Let me know in the comments.